All right, now that we have a cool bass sound locked in, let's work on the lead sound. And I had one particular one in mind, and it's in this song called Fangs, which I'll play. Let's go back a little bit. It's actually not that pluck sound, it's this one. So it's kind of that chorusy, detuned, interesting sound that hangs in the background. And I just think it's a really cool vibe. So I thought it'd be great to add in to the song that we've got now. So what we're going to do is let's just open a new MIDI clip with, or new MIDI track rather, with Command-Shift-T, and then we'll go to Anna 2 here. And whoop, yep, here we go. And what we'll do is just initialize the preset, as always, and we want to make sure that it's not on monophonic mode. So go down to the bottom left and turn on polyphonic mode by turning that off. Very important, because we kind of want the notes to be bleeding into one another. That's going to be the idea behind the synth here. So let's go ahead and let's start with our waveform here. And I wanted to use our Pulse 25 Mini. And the reason is that I really like being able to control the pulse width and the changes that it has to this particular waveform and the sound of it, but also it has some synergy with our bass sound, which also had a similar kind of waveform in there. So it's kind of a nice thing to do when you're making music, is to use similar waveforms to make things sound like they belong to the same family. You don't always have to do that, but it's kind of an interesting way to approach production here. So let's go ahead and start with this one. We've got our voice count on 1, so we'll be able to hear it. And I'll turn it down a little bit. So we'll do something like this. And the first thing we'll do is let's decrease the fine amount just to detune it a little bit, and we'll increase the drift, which is something that I really love to do. So if I press a note over and over again here, you can hear that it really drastically affects the tuning and what each individual note sounds like. So we're going to be adding in lots of detuned elements, which will sound lovely once everything is combined together. So I think this is good, pretty much just as it is. The only other thing I want to change is the pulse width. So we'll make it sound quite a bit thinner here. Yeah, something like this. And the idea is that we'll thin this one out, but we'll layer our next oscillator to sort of fatten it up a little bit. So what I want to do with this second oscillator is let's just go to a normal sawtooth waveform here, and we'll increase the voice count to 1 so we can actually hear it, and increase the volume to something a little bit less maybe than the first oscillator, right? And for this one, instead of detuning it, we'll go the other direction, and we will increase the fine amount so that we can have some of that beating sound that occurs when two oscillators play and they're slightly detuned. Something like this. And now let's go ahead and increase the drift amount for this oscillator as well, so it's kind of independently changing its tuning in a lovely way. So that's sounding good. And we'll turn this down just a little bit. Yeah. Next, I always like to work on the amplitude envelope. And again, we want just referencing our reference tune, or our reference lead rather, we want it to kind of hang in the background, have those notes bleed together and not be, super staccato and like a pluck. So that means that we need to have a little bit of sustain. So we don't want to bring the sustain all the way down. We want to have it hang there. Let's start with, -12. And obviously we need to increase our decay time. So let's do that. Maybe something a little over a second would be nice. And importantly, because we want things to bleed together, we need to increase the release time. So let's go somewhere around here. And actually, I'm going to decrease this a little bit to be something more similar to where the decay is. It's kind of a nice place to start if you're wondering, how long should I have my release time? Just have it similar to your decay time, and it'll be a good place, a good foundation for the rest of the sound. Obviously not a hard and fast rule or anything. Next, let's take a look at our filters. And again, I'm going to use some analog filters here. because I love the way they sound. And honestly, all of these sound quite a bit different in terms of like the harmonics they offer. So if you typically go for one type of filter, definitely try out some of these other ones and see what they can offer your sound, because they do make a huge difference. For this one, let's go ahead and use the Corgi. And I'm going to bring the cutoff down to, let's say 2K. This is kind of where I want it to end up eventually. And so that's kind of my, my barometer for where to set the cutoff exactly. And I'll also increase the resonance amount. And this will be important when we increase the envelope amount from the filter envelope. But just before that, you'll notice that there's 2 zeros next to these filters, and these are really, really important for the natural playability of the synth patch that you're using, or that you're creating rather. So if I increase this, actually before I increase it, if I just play a few notes, you can hear I'm playing 2 octaves up and it really disappears a lot. If I increase this key tracking amount and I play the same octaves, you can hear them a lot better. So as you increase the note, you go to a higher note, you open up the filter a little bit more, which is a really nice natural way of working. So I'm going to decrease this to about, I don't know, 50. This is a nice way to make sure that, you know, this is pretty, that you have plenty of options in terms of which octave you want to create your lead at, right? And I just like how it sounds as well. So the other thing we'll do is we'll increase, as I mentioned, the envelope amount to somewhere around 10%, let's say. And as we change the filter envelope, you'll hear exactly what this does. So if I bring the sustain all the way down, that means that no matter what we do with this particular envelope, it's always going to end up at the cutoff amount that I set, which is about 2K. If I have the sustain about halfway, it's going to change where that cutoff point is sustaining at. So I want to bring this all the way down just to keep everything really consistent and easy. So the next thing we'll look at is bringing the decay, or excuse me, the attack all the way down, and we'll bring the decay up so that we have a nice little envelope here, somewhere around 3 seconds, let's say. And you'll also notice too, when I release a key, that the filter cutoff just jumps right to the cutoff point because there's no release time. So if you want to naturally have it fade down to the cutoff point, it's nice to increase the release time of your filter envelope. That's something that I really, really like to do. So this is sounding pretty good so far. Here's where we want to add in an LFO, and this is where the sound gets a little crazy. So strap in, because as we assign this LFO shape, similar to how we did with the bass a little bit, we're gonna assign the LFO shape to the pitch coarse all. Okay, and what this is gonna do is, if I just hold down a note, you can hear that it starts to sound like more like a sound effect, really. Now, what we want to do is I'm going to decrease this depth amount to something really, really subtle, like about 1%. And because, you know, if it's linked to the pitch coarse all of your entire synth, it's going to have a dramatic effect even at a very, very small value. And I'm going to turn the delay all the way down because we want it to engage right away. And the other thing is let's change the rate. And I'm actually going to turn sync off for this because I want it to be able to kind of go on its own little tuning adventure apart from what's happening with the BPM. I want it to be in a different spot of the waveform and in a different spot of where it is in terms of its tuning, no matter where we are in the song, right? Yeah, something like this. Okay, so let's decrease this rate somewhere around here. Maybe even less than that. We'll be a little more subtle with it. You can hear that it, even at a depth of 1%, like it's doing a lot of it's changing the tuning a lot. It's maybe a little too lo-fi and weird. So if we decrease this depth control for how much the LFO is actually affecting this particular target, it's very similar to what's happening with the depth, but now we have another control. So we don't have to worry about like changing this depth to 0.5% lower than it is. We can just lower this and it's super easy, right? So let's go down to like, I don't know, 20% maybe? Yeah, that's sounding nice. Now, first, I just want to add in a little bit of compression. It's just kind of a general thing I like to do. And in order to activate the compression, let's just make sure that we click on the bar below compression. And let's lower the ratio to something subtle, like, 2-to-1, something really, really nice and easy, and we'll reduce our release time all the way, maybe increase the attack time to let some of that initial transient, even though it's pretty subtle on this particular synth, it's nice to let it out a little bit of attack here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this threshold quite a bit so I can see and hear, more importantly, instead of just looking at it, listen to when it starts kind of controlling the dynamics a little bit, and we can increase this makeup. If I'm having trouble hearing what the compression is doing, I like to lower the threshold all the way. You can hear just how much attack is actually getting let through, but we'll be a little bit more light-handed with it. And do something like this. And then also, let's add in some chorus, because honestly, I can't resist. I love chorus. And you can hear too in our reference, it was spread out in the stereo image. And so it's nice to, it's a nice way to accomplish that particular effect, right? So let's add in our chorus. And we need to make sure that it's active so we can hear it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this rate significantly because we don't want it to be, we already have some other detuning elements happening, so we want it to be a little bit more subtle with it. So maybe we'll decrease the rate to maybe somewhere around here. And you can hear that it's detuned a lot, so the way to fix that is to decrease the depth amount. We'll go to somewhere around here. And I actually kind of want to increase the dry wet percentage to about 70. Yeah, I think that's sounding pretty good. Now the other thing we can do is just add in a nice delay, and it's really great that there's a delay and a plate reverb set up already, so we can just activate them right away instead of having to actually like go through menus and add the delay or whatever. Even in your DAW, you can just activate this right away. We've already got some delays going. I'm going to leave most of this just where it is, but I do want to increase the high pass amount to somewhere around like 400 to make sure that there's no low information happening in our delays. And maybe we'll just maybe we'll set the low pass somewhere around here. Just kind of vibe with it and see what sounds good. So now we have our effects done, and I think this this initial patch here is sounding pretty good. So what we want to do is add in our melody. And by the way, I will have all of the presets and everything included in the assets so that you guys can just pull it in right away. But if you want to learn how the sounds were made and how you can, apply them to other creations that you have, we can do that as well in these videos. So I'm going to pull open our lead here, this lead, and this is kind of what I want it to sound like. So if I solo this, so something nice and simple, something that's going to hang in the background. And if I unsolo this, so you can see it's got a nice little bounce to it. We'll even call this lead so that we can keep everything nice and organized. So we'll do a little bit more processing when we go to the mix stage, but other than that, I think the sound is there, and we can move on to the next thing.